The great hall of the Galactic Council was silent. 300 species sat in their seats, watching the large screen at the center of the room. The screen showed images of a small blue planet, Earth, the home of the newest species to join the galactic community. Ambassador Thel stood at the center of the hall. He was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. His species, the Valorians, had watched humanity for 300 years. They had studied them. They had learned their languages. They had watched their history unfold. Now, Thel was here to give his report. Captain Eunice sat in the observation gallery above the main floor. She was the commander of the United Earth Fleet's diplomatic ship. Her job was to represent humanity at these meetings. Beside her sat Lieutenant Taiho, a young officer with a serious face. He was taking notes on everything that happened. Yuna watched Thel with calm eyes. She knew what was coming. She had read the reports. She had seen the look of fear on alien faces when they talked about human history. Thel pressed a button, and the screen changed. It showed images from Earth's past. Soldiers in trenches, covered in mud and blood, cities burning under falling bombs, mushroom clouds rising into the sky, men and women fighting in jungles and deserts and frozen mountains. The aliens in the hall began to whisper. Some looked away from the screen. Others stared with wide eyes. This is humanity, Thel said. His voice was quiet but clear. For 10,000 years they have fought. They have fought for land. They have fought for resources. They have fought for ideas. They have fought for revenge. They have never stopped fighting. The screen showed more images. A soldier carrying a wounded friend through enemy fire. A pilot crashing his plane into an enemy ship. A woman with a rifle, standing alone against an entire army. Prisoners of war who refuse to break, even after years of torture. We have studied many species, Thel continued. All species fight. It is natural. When resources are low, species compete. When territory is needed, species go to war. But all species follow the same pattern. They fight until victory seems impossible. Then they negotiate. They make peace. They find balance. He paused. The hall was completely silent now. Humans do not follow this pattern. The screen showed a map of an ancient war. Arrows and lines showed the movement of armies. One side was clearly losing. Their cities were burning. Their armies were destroyed. Any other species would have surrendered. This nation lost 90% of its military, Thel said. Their capital was destroyed. Their leaders were dead. They had no food, no weapons, no hope. He looked at the council. They fought for 6 more years. They used sticks and stones. They attacked supply lines. They killed enemy soldiers in their sleep. They refused to stop. When the war finally ended, there was almost no one left on either side. The council members shifted in their seats. Some of them had fought wars before. They knew what it meant to lose. They knew when to stop. This is not an exception, Thel said. This is the pattern. Humans do not surrender. Humans do not give up. When they are cornered, they become more dangerous. When they are outnumbered, they find new ways to fight. When they are defeated, they wait. They rebuild. They remember. And then they come back. Yuna kept her face calm. Beside her, Taiho had stopped taking notes. He was just watching now. We have seen species that are more physically powerful than humans, Thel continued. We have seen species that are more intelligent. We have seen species with better technology, faster ships, stronger weapons. But we have never seen a species like this. He brought up one final image. It was a photograph from an ancient human war. A single soldier stood in front of a massive tank. He was not running. He was not hiding. He was just standing there, blocking its path. They call this bravery, Thel said. They call it courage. They call it sacrifice. But when we look at this image, we see something else. He turned to face the council directly. We see a species that does not know how to stop. A species that will die rather than accept defeat. A species that will destroy everything, including themselves, rather than lose. The whispers in the hall grew louder. Thel raised his hand, and they fell silent again. The Valorian Collective makes the following recommendation. Humanity should be welcomed into the galactic community. They should be allowed to trade. They should be allowed to explore. They should be allowed to join this council, he paused. But they should never be allowed to fight. The hall exploded with voices. Species shouted their agreement. Others demanded more information. Some simply stared at the humans in the gallery, as if seeing them for the first time. Una stood up. The noise died down as every eye turned to her. The human delegation accepts this decision, she said. Her voice was calm and clear. We did not come to the stars to fight. We came to explore. We came to learn. We came to meet new friends. She smiled just slightly. If the council believes we should not fight in your wars, we will respect that. We are honored to join you in peace. She sat back down. The council voted. The motion passed unanimously. Humans were banned from all galactic warfare. After the meeting, Taiho walked beside Una through the long corridors of the council station. They think this is an insult, he said quietly. They think they are punishing us. Una looked out through a window at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth was spinning in the darkness. Billions of humans living their lives unaware of what had just happened. Let them think that, she said. What do you mean? Una turned to look at him. Her eyes were calm, but there was something behind them. Something old. Something patient. We have been fighting each other for 10,000 years, she said. We are tired of war. If they want to ban us from fighting, let them. We will build. We will grow. We will prepare. Prepare for what? Una started walking again. For the day when they need us. Because that day will come. It always does. Taiho followed her in silence. Above them, the stars burned cold and bright, and the galaxy continued to turn. Not knowing what waited in the darkness between the stars, 50 years passed. Humanity grew and spread across the stars. They built colonies on distant worlds. They traded with alien species. They shared their music, their art, their stories. The galaxy welcomed them as peaceful neighbors, and slowly, the fear began to fade. Then the Droxy came. No one knew where they came from. They emerged from the dark regions at the edge of the galaxy, where no ships had ever traveled. They did not send messages. They did not ask for territory. They did not negotiate. They simply consumed. The first world to fall was a small colony called Vethfree. It had 2 million people. The Droxy arrived with a swarm of ships that blocked out the sun. Within 3 days, there was nothing left. No buildings. No people. No life at all. The council sent their greatest fleets. The Valorians brought their warships. The Marketh brought their battle cruisers. The Pale Ones of Sector 9 brought weapons that could destroy moons. It was not enough. The Droxy were not like other enemies. They did not have leaders to kill. They did not have supply lines to cut. They were a swarm, millions of ships moving as one mind. When one ship was destroyed, 10 more took its place. When one fleet was defeated, another emerged from the darkness. 12 species fell in the first decade. Ancient civilizations that had existed for millions of years were erased in weeks. The council retreated again and again, losing more territory with each battle. Commander Minji watched the reports from the bridge of her ship, the Horizon. It was not a warship. It was a research vessel, designed for exploration and study. It had minimal weapons and thin armor. It was not meant for combat, but Minji was a human, and humans did not always do what they were meant to do. The distress signal came on a cold morning. A colony world called Thrinfor was under attack. 300,000 civilians were trapped on the surface. The nearest council fleet was 2 weeks away. Minji looked at the signal for a long time. Then she turned to her first officer, Junho. Set a course for Threnfor, she said. Junho's face went pale. Commander, we cannot engage the Droxy. The ban prevents us from joining their wars. Minji said, This is not a war. This is a rescue. Our ship has no weapons. We have no soldiers. We will die. Mingi stood up. 300,000 people are waiting for help. If we do nothing, they will all die. I will not let that happen. She looked at her crew. They were scientists, engineers, doctors. They had never fought in a battle. They had never seen war. I will not order you to come with me, Minji said. Anyone who wants to leave can take the escape pods now. I will not judge you. I will not blame you. No one moved. JUNHO looked at her for a long moment. Then he sat back down at his station. Setting course for Thren 4, he said quietly, "The horizon arrived to find hell." Droxy ships filled the sky like a cloud of insects. The colony's shields were failing. Fires burned across the surface. People were running through the streets screaming, dying. Minji made her decision in seconds. All crew to escape pods, she ordered. Junho, transfer all navigation data to my console. What are you doing? I'm going to crash this ship into their command structure. Yunho grabbed her arm. You will die. Minji looked at him calmly. Maybe, but they will lose their coordination. The swarm will scatter. It will give the people time to hide. Time for the council fleet to arrive. She pulled her arm free. Double quotes go. Now, that is an order. Minji watched. The impact was tremendous. The horizon tore through the Droxy command ship like a knife through paper. Explosions rippled across its surface. The swarm began to falter, losing direction. Mingi survived. She did not know how. When she woke up, she was lying in wreckage on the surface of the planet. Her arm was broken. Her suit was damaged. She had no weapons, no food, no way to call for help. She started walking. For 21 days, Mingi fought alone. She found a maintenance kit in the wreckage and used its tools as weapons. She learned how the Droxy moved, how they communicated, where their weak points were. She destroyed their fuel stores. She cut their communication lines. She killed their scouts one by one, dragging their bodies into hiding places so the others would not find them. The Droxy began to fear the night. Something was hunting them, something that could not be caught, something that would not stop. When the council fleet finally arrived, they found the Droxy retreating. Not because of any battle, but because one human had made their lives impossible. They found Minji sitting in the ruins of a Droxy forward base. She had built a fire from alien technology. She was drinking water from a container she had made from the shell of a dead enemy. A council representative approached her carefully. You violated the ban, he said. Minji looked up at him. Her face was thin and tired. Her eyes were hard. I did not fight your war, she said. I just refused to let people die. The representative did not know what to say. He had seen warriors from 100 species. He had seen courage and sacrifice and determination, but he had never seen anything like this. How did you survive? He asked. Minji finished her water and stood up slowly. She looked at the sky where the Droxy ships were disappearing into the darkness. I am human, she said simply. We do not know how to stop. She walked past him toward the rescue ships, leaving him standing alone in the ruins. Behind her, the fires still burned. And the galaxy began to understand that the ban on human warfare was never about protecting the galaxy from humans. It was about protecting humans from themselves, and perhaps, in the end, it would not matter at all. 15 more years passed. The Droxy could not be stopped. The Council had lost almost half of its territory. Great civilizations that had stood for millions of years were now nothing but empty worlds and silent ruins. Refugee ships filled the space lanes, carrying survivors from destroyed colonies. The Council fleets fought battle after battle, but each victory cost more than it gained. Ambassador Thel stood at the window of his office looking out at the stars. He was old now. His pale blue skin had turned gray at the edges. His large, dark eyes were tired. He remembered the day he had stood before the Council and recommended banning humans from war. He remembered the images he had shown, the trenches, the burning cities, the mushroom clouds. He had been so certain that humans were too dangerous to trust. Now the galaxy was burning anyway. A knock came at his door. His assistant entered. The human delegation has arrived, she said. They are waiting in the council chamber. Thel took a deep breath. This was the moment he had been dreading. The moment he had known would come eventually. The moment he would have to beg. The council chamber was nearly empty now. So many species had been destroyed or scattered that only a fraction of the original members remained. The great hall felt cold and hollow. Admiral Seo-jin sat at the head of the human delegation. She was a small woman with gray hair and calm hands. She'd been a child when the ban was passed. Now she commanded all of Earth's defensive forces. Beside her sat her officers. Captain Doyen, a young man with sharp eyes, and Commander Hannah, who had served under Minji during the incident at THRN-4, THEL, walked to the center of the floor. He looked at the humans for a long moment. Then he spoke. "We ask you to fight." The words hung in the air. Simple, direct, desperate. Seo-jin did not respond immediately. She studied Thel with eyes that gave nothing away. "You banned us from war," she said finally. "You said we were too dangerous, too brutal, too willing to sacrifice. Yes, you showed the council images of our history. You made them afraid of us, yes? Now you come to ask for our help?" Thel lowered his head. "Yes." Seo-jin stood up slowly. She was not tall, but something about her presence filled the room. "You were right to be afraid," she said. A murmur ran through the remaining council members. Thel looked up. "We are everything you said we were," Seo-jin continued. "We are brutal. We are relentless. We do not stop. We do not surrender. When we fight with everything we have, even if it destroys us." She pressed a button on her console. Behind her, holographic displays activated, filling the chamber with light. Ships appeared. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Warships unlike anything the council had ever seen. Heavy cruisers with thick armor. Carriers filled with fighters. Battleships with weapons that could crack planets. The council stared in shock. "You hid these?" Thel asked. "We built them," Seo-jin replied. "In the asteroid fields beyond our outer planet, for 50 years, while you thought we were peaceful traders and explorers, we were preparing. Preparing for what?" Seo-jin looked at him with those calm, patient eyes. For this moment, for the day when the darkness would come and you would need someone to stand against it. Doyen stepped forward. "We never trusted the peace," he said. "Not because we do not want peace. We want it more than anything. But we know how the universe works. There is always something waiting in the darkness. There is always another enemy." Thel felt something strange in his chest. It took him a moment to recognize it. Hope. "How many ships?" he asked. Seo-jin smiled, just slightly enough. The council voted that night. The ban on human warfare was suspended. Earth was given full authority to coordinate the defense of the remaining council territories. After the vote, Thel approached Seo-jin. "Why?" he asked. "We banned you. We feared you. We treated you like monsters. Why would you help us now?" Seo-jin looked at him for a long moment. Then she turned to look at the holographic map of the galaxy. Red zones marked Droxy territory. It covered almost half of the known space. "When I was a child," she said, "my grandmother told me a story. She said that humans are strange creatures. We can hate each other. We can fight each other. We can do terrible things to each other. But when something threatens all of us, something truly evil, we become something else." She turned back to Thel. "We become protectors. We become shields. We become the wall that stands between the innocent and the darkness." Thel thought about the images he had shown the council 50 years ago. The soldiers in trenches. The burning cities. The impossible courage. "You were always going to help us," he said quietly. "Even after everything we did," Seo-jin nodded. "Because that is what humans do. We protect. Even when we are not wanted. Even when we are feared. Even when it costs us everything." She started walking toward the door. Then she stopped and looked back. "The Droxy will learn what happens when they threaten something humans care about." She left the chamber. Behind her, the holographic ships continued to spin slowly in the air. Weapons of war built by a species that had hoped never to use them. They'll watch them for a long time, and for the first time in 15 years. He felt something he had almost forgotten. Hope. The Battle of Hollowgate would be remembered for 1,000 years. The Droxy had gathered their greatest swarm at a point in space, where 3 star systems met. Billions of drones. Thousands of hive ships. A queen ship at the center, massive and terrible, controlling the entire swarm with its ancient mind. The last council fleets had gathered there too, making their final stand. If this battle was lost, nothing would remain. Admiral Seojin stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Dawn of Earth. Around her, the human fleet moved into position. 1,000 warships, 50,000 fighters, 200,000 soldiers ready for boarding operations. It was not enough. The mathematics said so. The Droxy outnumbered them 10-1. The Council's own battle computers predicted total defeat, but humans had never been good at. Mathematics Captain Doyan commanded the Vanguard, the ships that would hit the enemy first. He was 28 years old, the youngest fleet commander in human history. Some said he was too young. Others said he was the best tactical mind Earth produced in a generation. The Valorian commander sent a message across the fleet. "We are honored to fight beside you. We will follow your strategies." Doyan's response went out on every channel, to every ship, to every species. "We do not need you to follow. We need you to survive. Stay behind us. Do not engage unless we fall." The council ships hesitated. Their commanders did not understand. This was supposed to be a joint battle. Doyan did not explain. He simply gave the order: all human ships, forward. Maximum speed. No retreat. The human fleet advanced like a spear thrown at the heart of darkness. The first day was chaos. Droxy drones swarmed around the human ships like insects around a flame. Explosions filled the space between the stars. Ships died by the dozens and by the hundreds, but the humans did not stop. When a cruiser's weapons failed, its captain rammed the ship directly into a hive ship. When fighters ran out of missiles, their pilots ejected and continued fighting in their suits, using cutting tools and emergency charges to destroy enemy vessels from the inside. The Droxy had never seen anything like this. Their swarm was designed to overwhelm enemies with numbers. But these enemies did not run. These enemies did not break. These enemies kept coming, even when they were dying, even when they had nothing left. On day 3, Lieutenant Hannah led a boarding party onto a damaged hive ship. Her team was supposed to plant explosives and retreat. Instead, they fought their way to the control center and took the ship. A human voice came over the Droxy communication network. Speaking in their own language, "This is Lieutenant Hannah of the United Earth Fleet. This hive ship now belongs to us. Who wants it next?" The Droxy responded with fury. They sent 100 ships to destroy the captured vessel. Hannah held it for 6 hours, using its own weapons against the swarm, before finally evacuating with her team. On day 5, Admiral Seojin ordered the first wave of suicide runs. Ships loaded with reactor fuel flew directly into Droxy formations and detonated. The explosions created holes in the swarm, gaps that the rest of the fleet exploited. Every pilot who flew those missions knew they would not come back. Every one of them volunteered. On day 7, Doyan's flagship was destroyed. A swarm of drones broke through the defensive line and tore the ship apart. The council commanders thought he was dead. Then his voice came over the communication network. He was in an escape pod, drifting through debris, still giving orders. Carrier Group 3 moved to Sector 9. Cruiser Division 7. Focus fire on the hive ships at coordinates 472. Fighter squadrons, cover the evacuation of damaged vessels. He commanded the battle for 3 more days from that escape pod. He did not sleep. He did not rest. He refused rescue until the battle was decided. On day 10, Seojin made the final decision. The Queen ship was the key. If it fell, the swarm would collapse. But it was protected by thousands of ships, layer upon layer of defense. No fleet could reach it. Boarding operation, Seojin said. We send soldiers directly to the Queen's ship. Her officers looked at her in shock. That is impossible, one of them said. They would have to launch from a ship close to the Queen. They would be destroyed before they landed. Then we get a ship close to the Queen. The cruiser Eternal Hope volunteered. Its captain, a woman named Jian, knew what she was signing up for. She would fly her ship directly into the heart of the swarm, getting close enough for the boarding party to launch. She would not survive. Tell my family I love them, she said over the communication network. Tell them I was not afraid. The Eternal Hope flew into the swarm like a comet. Droxy ships tore at it from every direction. Its armor melted. Its engines failed, but it kept going. Pushed by momentum and the will of its dying crew, 14 soldiers launched from its hull moments before it was destroyed. They flew through space in armored suits, dodging debris and enemy fire, till they crashed into the surface of the Queen's ship. Lieutenant Hannah led them. Beside her was Ensign Wenjin, a young man who had never been in real combat before this battle. They breached the hull with mining charges. They fought through corridors filled with Droxy soldiers. One by one, the boarding party fell. 12, 10, 8, 5. When they reached the core, only Hannah and Wanjin were left. The Queen was massive, a biological computer that controlled the entire swarm. It screamed when they entered its chamber, sending waves of psychic pain through their minds. Hannah fell to her knees. Wanjin stumbled, but they did not stop. Wanjin raised his weapon and fired at the Queen's neural cluster. Hannah planted explosives around the core. The Queen screamed again, trying to stop them, trying to control them. It could not. The explosives detonated. The Queen died. Outside, the swarm stopped. Billions of drones fell silent. Thousands of hive ships drifted without direction. The Droxy mind was gone. Hannah and Wanjin walked out of the wreckage carrying the Queen's severed neural cluster. A rescue ship picked them up 3 hours later. When they returned to the fleet, the surviving soldiers stood in silence. Then someone started clapping. The sound spread across the ship, then across the fleet, then across every vessel in the system. The battle was over. The galaxy was saved, and the cost was more than anyone had imagined. The memorial service was held on a station. Near the place where the Battle of Hollow Gate had been fought, ships from every surviving species gathered there. Millions of beings watched the ceremony on screens across the galaxy. The list of human dead took 3 hours to read. 217. 1,000 soldiers had died in the battle. Another 80,000 had been wounded. The fleet that had taken 50 years to build was now scattered wreckage drifting between the stars. Some ships had been so completely destroyed that nothing remained. But Dust Admiral Seojin sat in the front row of the memorial hall. Her arm was in a sling. Bandages covered half her face. She had refused to stay in the medical bay. She said she owed it to the dead to be here. Beside her sat Captain Doyon. He walked with a cane now. The doctor said he might never walk normally again. He did not seem to care. He was alive. So many others were not. Lieutenant Hannah sat a few rows back. She held the medal they had given her in her hands. She had asked them to give it to someone else. To one of the 12 soldiers who had died on the Queen's ship, they had refused. They cannot wear it, the ceremony official had said. You can. You must. For them? So she held it, and she did not look at it, and she tried not to think about the faces of the people she had lost. Ambassador. Thel walked to the center of the memorial stage. He was the last surviving member of the original council that had banned humans from war. All the others had died in the long years of the Droxy invasion. Now, he was here to speak for the galaxy. He looked out at the assembled species. At the humans in their black uniforms, their faces tired and sad. At the aliens who had watched humans fight and die to save them. When I was young, Thel began, I stood before the Galactic Council and told them about humanity. I showed them images of human wars. I showed them the trenches and the bombs and the endless fighting. I told them that humans were too dangerous to be allowed to fight. He paused. The hall was completely silent. I was afraid of them. We all were. We saw a species that seemed to love violence, a species that would rather die than surrender, a species that would destroy everything, including themselves, just to win. He looked at Seojin, at Doyeon, at Hannah. We banned them from war because we thought we were protecting the galaxy from monsters. The word hung in the air. Monsters? The humans did not react. They had heard worse. We were wrong. Thel stepped forward, closer to the human section. We did not understand. We saw the violence, but we did not see what was behind it. We saw the sacrifice, but we did not ask why they were willing to give so much. We saw the brutality, but we did not see the love. A murmur ran through the alien sections of the hall. Love. What did love have to do with war? I watched humans fight for 11 days, Thel said. I watched them fly their ships into enemy formations. I watched them board enemy vessels with nothing but hand tools. I watched them refuse to retreat, refuse to surrender, refuse to stop, even when they were dying. He turned to look at the screen behind him where images from the battle were playing silently. Ships exploding, soldiers fighting, the eternal hope flying into the heart of the swarm. And I asked myself why. Why would anyone do this? Why would anyone give so much? He turned back to face the audience. Then I understood. They were not fighting for themselves. They were not fighting for territory or resources or power. They were fighting for us. For all of us. For every species in the galaxy. For the children who would never know what happened here. For the worlds that would never burn because of what they did. Thel's voice grew stronger. You do not fight like that for nothing. You do not die like that for strangers. You only do that when you love something more than yourself. When you care so much about others that your own survival does not matter. He looked directly at Seojin. We banned you from war because we thought you were the most dangerous species in the galaxy. We were right. But we did not understand why. Seojin looked back at him. Her eyes were calm, but tears ran down her face. You are dangerous because you love, Thel said. Because you refuse to let the innocent suffer. Because when darkness comes, you stand against it, no matter the cost. You fight with everything you are, not because you hate your enemies, but because you love the people behind you. The hall was completely silent. Even the youngest children were still. The ban is lifted, Thel said. From this day forward, humans are welcome to fight beside us. But I pray that we never need you again. He bowed his head. Not because we fear you, but because we understand now what it costs you. Every time you fight, you pay in blood and tears and grief. Every battle leaves scars that never heal. You gave us everything, and you asked for nothing in return. He raised his head and looked at the humans one final time. I think you've dotted. Thank you. The galaxy will never forget what you did here. Seojin stood up slowly. The hall watched as she walked to the center of the stage. She stood beside Thel and looked out at the assembled species. We will be here, she said simply. If you ever need us again. She did not make a speech. She did not ask for anything. She simply turned and walked back to her seat. The ceremony ended. The species filed out of the hall, returning to their ships, returning to their worlds. The galaxy would rebuild. The Droxy were gone. Peace had returned. But something had changed in the halls of every species. In the schools, in the homes, in the places where history was taught, a new story was told. The story of a species that had been banned from war because they were too frightening. The story of how they had waited, patient and prepared, for the day when they would be needed. The story of how they had fought and died to save strangers who had once feared them. And when young beings asked their elders about humans, they were told the truth. They're the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Not because they hate, but because they love. And when you threaten something they love, they will never ever stop. Doyeon stood at the window of his hospital room looking out at the stars. Hannah stood beside him. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Finally, Hannah broke the silence. Do you think they really understand now? Doyeon thought about it. About the battle? About the soldiers who had died. About the fear he had seen in alien eyes turning slowly to something else. Yes, he said. I think they finally do. Outside, the stars burned bright and cold. Somewhere, on a small blue planet called Earth, children played in sunlight, not knowing what their parents had done to keep them safe, and the galaxy turned on, into a future that was peaceful and hopeful. And free, because humans had paid the price, and at last everyone understood everything.